So, about last night, and I won't harp on this because I know some people feel uncomfortable when I talk about stuff like this. It was about the police. It's not that I was mad that they pulled me over. I was mad that they're abusing their authority and that they're using not just tax dollars, but they could be finding real criminals, you know, and searching and just letting their presence be known. The problem with policing like that is that it undermines their own authority. Okay, so if they're abusing it and they're enforcing dumb laws like consensual crime laws, you know, like for drugs and things, shit like that, people do not forget that, right? Because you're trying to ruin their life over something that they want to ruin their life with anyway. So, and you're like, no, you want to ruin your life? All right, I'll show you, kid. You know, and then they, you know, and they talk and say one thing, which is that police are there to protect and serve. I did not feel protected, and I did not feel served last night. So, and nobody else they were, you know, nobody else was complaining or anything like that. And they made a big deal about it. They even had a flyover with the fucking ghetto bird. So, but anytime police will use those tactics and use that as an excuse to force feed you their version of the law. And of course, their version of the law gives them all the power, takes away all your power, and it just try to floats that bullshit and it misinforms you. There's no consequence for them lying. You got to understand that. They have, first of all, they have, was it, I forget, something immunity, discipline immunity or whatever, job immunity. So they can do what the fuck they want. They can even kill you and there's no negative consequences for them. Now, what you can do is sue for their bond. Each cop has $1 million bond, typically. Some higher officials have a higher bond. But you can sue their bond and you can get the insurance company to settle out. And then what happens is they go through disciplinary action for the cops. And remember, the cops go through their cleansing system every 6 months. They can cleanse their record of any, I don't want to say wrongdoing, but of anything questionable. And that's perfectly within the realm of behavior. And again, back to the broken windows policy that's been abused by people, you know, police and officials as an excuse to really come down and crack down on you. As you know, and they're the ones, police are the ones that have created this weird society where, you know, you have to creep around and you can't be yourself. We scattered some people in the ravine over there by the Shell station because they were shooting up drugs. And I was like, man, that really sucks. Why can't you just do drugs in the park in the shade? You know, like, you're going to do drugs anyway. Like, whose fucking business is it anyway? They're like, well, you don't want to shoot up in, like, it's not just broad daylight, but it's in plain view, because then cops have a reason to come over and harass you. And it's like, leave people the fuck alone. If they're not hurting anybody else and nobody's complaining, fuck off. And they, you know, of course, that's a threat to their authority. And you know, and then you get into parodies like what South Park did with, what's his name? I forget his name, the chubby one. You know, respect my authority. And you know, you're mocking police, but that's why they're mocking police, because they're not supposed to be doing that. That's not the image that they portray, but their behavior is different. And so that puts them out of alignment and it makes them hypocrites. And then, you know, when you see them all protesting, not wanting to get the fucking vaccine, you know, it does not instill confidence. And it's like, your days are fucking numbered if you guys keep that shit up. So, but you guys know all that, because I'm sure you've been harassed by police for sound ordinances, you know. But anyways, back to the good old, I was looking for another version. This is November 93. I was 19 at the time. I was working down the street at Stuart Anderson's Black Angus as a busboy. And I did my job better than my stupid sister, who was a waitress. And my sister didn't even fucking tip me out very well. Bitch. So, these Adcom amps were actually really, really well built. And very expensive. So, if you have them, they are quite rare. Again, I'm not into collecting, but those are really well built PCBs. You can see this one is the 4-channel, 1 amplifier, 2 amplifier, 3 amplifier, 4 amplifier, and then all power supply. So MXE, some sort of weird shallow woofer. Oh no, that's a coaxial. Cute. Does that use the? Some of these used the same magnet for the tweeter and the mid. which is a cost savings thing. It's not really innovative. Attitude is everything. I don't know what their attitude is saying, but good job. And a peach bomber, that's what we call them here, bombers. It's a lowrider that's like old school. Was this Targa? Targa. Targa was what's known as a Me Too brand, meaning we got red surrounds too, just like Cerwin Vega. Why do you need Cerwin Vega for red surrounds? It's a non-memorable Clarion ad. See, there's Cerwin Vega. Reader mail. Oh, look at that. Take your top 40 on the road with you. Only $40. Fingerhut, best sex toy vendor in America. They let you make payments on the 4-inch, 7-inch, and 9-inch neck massager that's shaped like a bullet penis. So funny. And then they have that chick, she's all like got no shirt on, but she's showing you her back and she's touching it to her neck. Like, why is it shaped like a penis? And my auntie doesn't really want to answer my questions. AVI, another Me Too. You know, there's never really been a lot of innovation in car audio. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not impressed with a lot of stuff. If anything, you know, really what I'm impressed with is value. When, what was it, Harmony for a minute there was doing pretty good. Just like Audioban. Audioban, when they got first started back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were bringing a lot of really cool stuff to market. And it was really, really affordable. And, but, you know, they were an up-and-comer and they were trying to get the name out that, they, you know, they were good as anybody else. And so you get into these established brands and they just, you know, they want an arm and a leg. And I don't know. I feel like everybody's just greedy. So love those amps. And I wish, you know, Rockford would bring them back as a replica and then put like some fucking full bridge shit in there. Like the Punch 200 is actually, you know, you could probably fit a 20K in there, you know, something like that. But I don't know. I don't know why they don't do that. For me, even me, I would look, you know, of course they're going to charge, you know, MSRP of $2,000, right? Got to, even at 10 cents a watt, that's still a really good deal. So, but Ultimate, again, nothing special. What does that say? Reflex, Flex. And, you know, these are all just small surround. You know, and it's funny, back then they would say things like long throw cone. When they're, see, this is the guy version of the same thing, Sanyo. It was long throw compared to PA, because before that, the only people making, you know, 10s, 15s, 18-inch woofers were PA. So that looks cute, but, you know, they only make it for a little bit. There you go. Intersonic servo drive. Well, they actually brought it to market. Let's see. Instead of the magnets, voice coils, 15-inch woofers. Yep. AutoSound 2000 tested it. Yeah, MSRP of $3,000. Fuck no. So, but you know, they didn't even use cast frames. So it's like, come on, you can do better. But that's the servo motor right there. And then this part you can either make as an extension of the enclosure, or you can make the outside the enclosure, and then this is the blow through. So either way is fine. It's a cute little equalizer. Clarion. And I think at that time, you know, like blues and all that stuff, at the time Japan was making a lot of stuff, and then they were outsourcing to Korea and maybe some to China as well. What is that? Sequoia? Sequoia. Under $400. It's a little bandpass box, it looks like. Might be just a porta box. That was their solution to Rockford's 7th order bandpass, which is dumb. So dumb. 7th order, 8th order. Like, the higher the order, the worse it gets. Because that describes how steep the roll-off is. You want a nice slow roll-off. If anything, When you get all peaky, it gets very selective. Like when you using an equalizer, you don't want to use a Q of 4 because then it's really narrow. It's like 1 or 2 frequencies. It's not very good at all. That's if you got a real problem, or you want a very specific frequency to boost. And music's not like that. Music has lots of frequencies, especially in the bass area. So, is this called amp? AAMP? I don't know why. Like, why does Matt's put the extra M on there? I don't know. So, see, and they put the little piece of metal, and you go with ding, or what? No, sorry, with do, and then without ding. That's dumb. Installer, the lowest rung servant of the car audio industry. Oh my God, you guys think you're top shit because you know stuff that regular normal people don't give a shit about. And then you wonder why you get treated like shit by the shop owners and anybody that actually has any money or authority. So, and that's why as an installer, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm not just an installer. I can do more. What else can I do? And then that's when I started getting into studying amplifiers and subwoofers and learning terminology and learning from engineers about, and what really helped me was when engineers like from PPI would tell me secrets that, stuff that I had suspected, about how sensitivity is not that important, especially in a low frequency driver, and other stuff that just is marketing and, it helped my intuition about a lot of this stuff that it was all bullshit. And then that's when I started looking into Super Pro and really examining it from a engineering perspective and realizing that, they're pulling the wool. All these companies, even LA Sound, is pulling the wool over your eyes and tricking you into thinking that this is desirable. Why is this desirable? This is a lot of money. There's some sort of Kevlar woofer. What does this say? Noise gate. I thought it said moist gate. Oh, AVI. So, and again, this isn't always Kevlar, and Kevlar isn't magical. So, oh, I got my caps in today. I got a bunch of stuff today. I got a bunch of coils in today. I got the 2 5/8 coils, dual 2, dual 4s for the P3s, Type Rs. Who else? What else? The critical mass. This is the one that Shaq, and good for Shaq. It helped make him famous. Everybody thinks that you're exploiting Shaq, and they are. They still use his likeness in order to promote the brand. However, Shaq is a multi-hundred zillionaire, and good for him. He's a really funny guy, and he's about bringing wonderful things to people's lives, and that I'm all for that. Port is way too small. I don't care how clear it is. What is that? Let me get a good look at that. Is that a punch 150? I see. Oh, it looks weird because of the RCAs. And then the cool harness, right? Weak. Couldn't even put terminals on there, could you, Rockford? No, you can just put a butt connector on there. Butt connectors work. There you go. Lightning audio. A little generic at first, but this was 1993. And these were the caps that were made by Philips out of one of the Carolinas. And Lightning actually saved the factory from going out of business. And then that way, Lightning was the exclusive distributor for USA-made capacitors, because at the time they did not have the machinery to make Chinese capacitors. It was too expensive with tariffs and everything like that. At the time, there was tariffs on finished goods rather than parts. Now it's the opposite. There's tariffs on parts, not finished goods, to encourage importation. So, but yeah, that was Scott Dealey's. I think I told you about this. Scott Dealey's little brother came down from Canada for the summer when I was working there, and he shared all kinds of cool secrets. It was just really, really interesting to learn about that kind of stuff. So, especially to a guy like me, because I was really, really into it, and I really enjoyed it, and I got really good at just soaking up a lot of information about that stuff. Crunch performance, blah, 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 blah. It's just a woofer. Where were they based out of? Audio Products, Napier Field, Alabama. Okay. And if you guys know information that I don't, I would love to hear it. I always love soaking up that information about where companies are from, who started what, because you know, everybody, including like Hollywood producers, even like low-level producers, they always want to put their fucking thumbprint on everything. These are actually pretty good woofers. This was the same as the Terminator series, but the Terminator series was a 2-ohm coil, and they acted like it was hot shit, and they sold it for 2 to 3 times more than this series. So I think this is the Road Thunder 2. What is it called? Tubes, bandpass, separates, neodymium. Like when people call it neodymium, I'm like, I guess you could call it that. So, because the Y, there's Mr. Navone. I used to call him Navone. Substations, the tube alternative. Yeah, fuck you, bazooka. We got better tubes. And it's like, whatever. It's just a tube. Doesn't mean anything. There you go. Nothing better than a cartoon rat with cartoon boobs. What do they see in that guy? He's gross. That shows you that you can be gross and still get pussy, right? Those are called prostitutes now, okay? And they're not going to go for you if you buy Urban Audio Works, especially. They're like, oh, you're a loser. And I think they also share this amp with Audio Gods. So Audio Gods use the same, I don't know if it was the same, I don't want to say factory, but distributor, manufacturer. They didn't really manufacture. But they were copies of the Audio Gods amps from probably from the same factory. Sometimes that happens, especially back then when you didn't, you know, you could call a colleague and you say, hey, Tony, what color are you going to bring your amps out? What sync did you go with? And they're like, oh, we went with the sync number 153, and we're doing it in anodized purple with gold lettering. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll do mine in like white lettering or something like that. So, but typically, if you're a colleague like that, and you know the other the other predators in the industry, then you can coordinate so that you don't import the same fucking product. So, number 1, and the winner is JL Audios. So, where is it? Let's see. I gotta look for myself. Oh, I can't even read it. What does that say? Florida. So, but they're actually based out of Phoenix now. So they have the they build the speakers in Florida, but I think they build the amps here in Tempe. So not sure. I've never been invited out to a tour, so that's how that goes. But you got to remember, a lot of the people that went on to help make JL Audio great were former engineers from Rockford and PPI and Esoteric and all the other brands here in Phoenix. So Phoenix is the hot shot. Blues, this is just an isobaric. Again, isobaric is dumb. Now it's a good, this is what's called a, what do they call it? The Siamese setup. And then this was like plexiglass. I got one out there for an 8. And so this just means you just wire them both the same, positive, positive, negative, negative. And you can wire these in series or parallel, it doesn't matter. And then they had the other version, which was the clamshell, where you put them face to face and then you wire the other side out of phase. So now what isobaric is good for is like, if you're stuck with a bunch of PA woofers and you still want to use them and you want to cut your VAS in half, that's what it's good for. So I forget his name, but there was a guy that I met in Hawaii who was also from, I think he was from Gilbert. God, I don't quite recall his name. And they went over here to Poca Fiesta in Mesa on Alma School and Southern, just down the street. And they snuck into the theater and they went behind the curtain. Like in the summertime, it's really slow. And so they went behind the theater and they stole 418s, which they then put into a 3-cylinder, what was it? Chevy Geo. And so they ended up putting 418s in a Geo. They walled it off. And the only way that, of course, you could fit it with the VAS, and they did it sealed too. That was the only way you could fit it. So this guy used to be, who's his name? Barnett Fagel. Not to be confused with Barnett Bagel. But yeah, so it was 418s in a Geo Metro. That's what it was called, Geo Metro. And it used a 3-cylinder little piece of shit. Which, oh, it was Ford. Was it, yeah, Ford? I guess they both shared that same platform. Because I remember the Ford Festiva basically shared the same platform. And I think a lot of the parts were built, I think, in China and then assembled in Mexico. And that was after, you know, they had put through NAFTA so that they could exploit Canadians, you know, well, they're not exploiting Canadians, but they're exploiting the Canadian dollar and the peso. So it was like, oh, we're paying you, you know, 4 pesos an hour, which is the same as $4. Like, no, motherfucker, that's not the same. But again, when you have an excess supply of, that's one of the reasons why the church always, the Catholic Church always encouraged no condoms, is because it helps keep labor costs down, right? Because now you got all these fucking kids and you got to provide for them. And so you're willing to take a job that you normally wouldn't. And then also when those kids grow up, they're in the same fucking position. And so what ends up happening is the church owns you in a sense. And it's like, I don't want to say it's indentured servitude, but it's definitely perpetual poverty. So, and believe me, there's plenty of people. There's plenty of people out there fucking and making babies by accident. You don't have to worry about it. Don't have kids if you don't really want to. Don't feel the pressure from your parents or whatever. Personally, me, I'm going to have probably my first child in my 80s. After I use synthetic DNA and RNA to rebuild my body and come back from the moon. I got to recover from coming back to the moon, or for my stint on the moon, my working there. And then I'm going to have my first child, and it's going to be a clone of me and my wife. We want a son and a daughter. So far, we may get a third child, but that's the plan right now. And I plan to live to about 150, which sounds crazy now, but in the next 10 years, you're going to see a lot of improvements in people's health. And of course, you got to have the money. And so that's one of the reasons. I don't really give a shit about money. You guys know that. Really what money is just to be able to, you know, it's like going to Mexico. You just pay the fucking cops. That's what it's for, so they leave you alone. So, and I really just want to be left alone. I don't know. I guess this was a thing in the 90s. I've seen this in a couple of skateboard magazine shoots. So at the time I was still getting Thrasher and Transworld. Still into the skateboarding. And I was getting chubby over there eating fucking Reuben sandwiches with fries. And I love their coleslaw there at Stuart Anderson's. Their coleslaw is amazing. And yeah, I was eating that for lunch every day and was getting chubby. As my mom called me, yo, honey, you got a niggy butt. I'm like, okay, that's a little racist, Mom, but that's fine. Thank you, I get it. It's also because I was skateboarding, so I was getting my glutes worked out. But, you know, thanks, Mom, for looking at my butt. Yeah, you know, really beautiful looking boards. As far as performance, meh. To me, there was too many pots. And when I get these in, that's one of the things that, of course, is wrong with them. All right, there you go. Authorized Parts Company. Of course, this is a Lightning audio cap that was re-sleeved by Lightning for them. And this was probably one of Larry's... I'd love, you know what? I'm going to take this in and show this to him because we're supposed to be getting a container maybe today or tomorrow, another container. And so I'd love to bring this in and show him from 1993. But that was one of his first probably OEM, what do you call it? Yeah, tattoos included. OEM ventures. So where you basically provide the original equipment for somebody. And then, and that's where I got a lot of my ideas too about doing distribution for them as well. So, because when you do distribution, you don't have to ship twice. And it also takes, they don't need a warehouse. They don't need anything. You're already doing all that for them. So remember NAME, where they taught you how to use a saw and all that stuff. This was all, you know, look at that. All 4 videos for only $170. Jesus Christ. You know, no wonder there was piracy. But and then the internet ruined all of that, ruined the magazine. So really, what it did was this is, of course, Hot Setup was by Orion. Hot Setup was what they sold. Again, these are all the same quality as like Orion Cobalt. The amps were all same as XTR. Oh, somebody was asking this morning about what's the difference between XTR and HCCA. Nada, except for the fact that on the HCCA it uses a lower rail voltage. And so what happens is in order to get the same power out, you have to drop the impedance. And because it's so clean anyway, like 0.005 THD, you can go down to lower impedances and it's still not audible distortion. The XTR amps are actually better. You want a high voltage output and you actually want high impedance subwoofers because they have more windings in the gap. They have more BL product. So, but in the car audio industry, it's all about, you know, low impedance and all, and you know, mostly that's about guys being cheap. Because if you know, and that was a hard pill for me to swallow in high school. What's his name? Bruce George, Sound by George, over there on Mill and Broadway. He had a hearse, and he had his Gefco made shop brand woofers in a hearse, and I think he had like 8 or 12 of them, and then he had like a PPI A1200 on each woofer, but it was 8 ohms bridged. And so, you know, what I realized really quickly was that if you wanted it a real proper system, it's going to cost you a lot of fucking money. And because I was never into that or tuned, you know, I was just poor and lost. I had to make do with other stuff. And there's a lot of other people that are in the same category. Base 305. This is all Techmaster. A lot of this shit was all Techmaster PEB, just under different brands. And again, a lot of the same things were all remixed. And, you know, the guy made a lot of good money, especially just working from home. So, you know, when you look at that, it looks like, you know, professionally produced and, you know, oh, we used a studio. No, you're talking about somebody sitting at a desk in their fucking, you know, basement or just their bedroom or whatever and making this shit. And then you go to a graphic artist and you go, come up with something cool with robots and aliens and all that kind of stuff. And then you send it off to print and it looks like this. And then you put a little thing that says send a money order to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, DM Records. And this, you know, look at that address. Suite 272. That's probably an apartment number. It's probably not even a commercial address, but look it up. Suite number. That's funny. And of course, Zapco, which was, it's not Zed, Robert Zeff, I think his name was. Yep, designed by Robert Zeff. Designed, not engineered, designed. That means he goes, I like this capacitor color. I like these things. Can you do this? And then you have an engineer have to work it all fucking out. So that's the difference between a designer and an engineer. Just so you know. And again, you know, professional technology, whatever that means, they're all the same. So now this might tout like another decimal place for distortion or some sort of bullshit or whatever, but it certainly does not justify the cost. So, and you know, if you're looking for the price tag, you can't afford it. Get out of here, poor person. And that was out of Modesto, which of course is another California town. A lot of shit California towns. Just because it's in California does not make it Santa Monica. That is most certainly true. Advent was one of the ones that used the tweeter. They used this magnet to power the tweeter as well. So just a funny shaped box. That's all. No big deal. Sometimes people would use square ports, things like that. Again, you don't need to use an arrow port because air is a fluid, and so it doesn't matter. What you want to make sure is that the port is large enough so that it doesn't create turbulence. Chuff. Isn't that cute? Jensen's, what is that? Probably isobaric. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 woofers. 16 10-inch woofers are face-to-face on clear Lexan baffles. What does that mean? Nothing. Because they're all suck woofers. Tiny magnets. And, you know, the biggest magnet out there was probably the Rockford Pro Series. And those used a really thin gap anyway. That was just a heavy-duty PA coil. At the time, that was the biggest skit. And then it wasn't until the game changer, fucking Tilo Stompler, Tilo changed the game for everybody. And he's like, he was like studying. He's like, why is everybody attached to sensitivity, right? Because that's what would sell a woofer. Because you would buy a 92 dB sensitive woofer over an 87, right? Because you're like, oh, I want that sensitivity because I want to win a contest. Well, what you don't realize is that that sensitivity rating is based on a 1 kilohertz tone. So that PA18 is meant for 1K, which is not bass. But that's what the standard came from. And so you have to get people away from looking at sensitivity numbers as a selling point. And so you have to create something else that shows them what they're really fucking looking for. And of course, the first big product that TC Sounds designed was the Orion HCCA woofers, which was based on a 3-inch coil. At the time, it was copper. They later went to a softer suspension with an aluminum coil to save money. And really shit tinsel sandwich with polyfoam. It was the dumbest thing in the world, but it was cheaper than sewn leads. They didn't have the sewing machines that they do now in China, where you can order anything you want. But you know, that was a really big step. And one of the things that they touted about it was that it was because of the larger BL, you could fit it in a smaller, the enclosure requirements, which was smaller. And then, which was great, you know, because then you could fit a lot of bass in a small space. But then they realized if you put these in medium to large vented enclosures, you can get some real volume. And that's what, you know, I've heard a single, what is it called? A single HCCA 15 in a 5 cubic foot box in a extended cab Chevy S10, and it was insane. It was really insane. And it hardly needed any power, maybe like 2, 3, maybe 500 watts, and it was awesome. So big boxes are where it's at, but you know, you lose power handling. So I think it's funny when people are attached, they go, can this woofer handle 5K? And I go, sure, in a small box. Like, why is power handling your goal? Stop doing that. Just because power is cheap does not mean you have to use all of it. Like somebody was talking about, they were looking for a good 3K amp, and I said, well, I have a Sundown SFB 5000 for only 400 shipped with 3-year warranty and the clipping bass knob. You know, you can have an LS swap in a fucking Chevelle, or a Chevette, I should say. Not a Chevelle, a Chevette. It doesn't mean you know, it's going to work the way that you want it to. Okay. You're still putting lipstick on a pig, and it's, you know, polish on a turd. This is your car. Sad. This is Hyphonics. This is vaginas. So you want vaginas? Let the power of the gods help you. So dumb. Made in the USA. Hellfire by Harrison Labs. They made some really good stuff. Again, just like one mad scientist in a garage coming out with all kinds of cool shit, or just putting their brand on stuff. So I still use the F mods to this day. What else did they make? Some other weird shit. I'm sure somebody will post a video on some of the Harrison Labs stuff. And that's it. The Eclipse Mobile Electronics, ask your dealer why. Removable CD tuner with, oh, it's removable as in you have to have a purse and like a little handle that come down and you pull the whole fucking thing out. Again, dumb. But, you know, that was a trend for a while. So, division of Fujitsu 10, a corporation out of, oh, that's right there in Torrance. A lot of stuff there in Torrance, including the Spearmint Rhino, where I had a lady, we were waiting on Ryan Bolins, not to be confused with Bernie Boland. Ryan Bolins, he was telling me some HCCA cones, and we had some time to kill because he was, I guess, cross town or something like that. And so we went to the Spearmint Rhino. It's me and my old boss from the Air Force, Barry Davis. And Barry was over there like playing pool and staying occupied. I'm like, I want to see some pussy in my face. And as soon as I got in there, this little skinny chick was like, you want to lap dance? And you know, it's rude to turn it down. So I was like, okay. And then she just starts like grinding on me. And I'm like, hey, you're hurting me. And then she's like ignoring me. And I said, and then I touched her on the back, just like tap, tap, like, hey, let me get your attention. I go, you're hurting me. And then she looked at me like I was a pussy. And she's like, fine. And I go, hey, send your friend over with the big jugs. And so then her friend with the big jugs, yeah, that was good. She took all my money. It was great. Best money spent. Best 2 hours hanging out there instead of at the Walmart. So, but there is the Car Audio and Electronics magazine for November 1993 and some of my stories to go along with it. I love you guys. I will talk to you later. Peace. That was terrible. Felt like Big D Wiz there for a second.